Killshot from 99 Gaming. This is The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, episode number 1, recap and live fan reactions. So I am really excited about tonight's episode. I got my notepad, a few things we're going to talk about, some cool things. So again, keep in mind that I'm doing this in real time, not with spoilers. So if I butcher a name or an event, it's all speculation at this point. Some of you may have watched ahead and know a little bit more, but I'm going with the flow. So before we get too far into it, how about a super chat from Villar? Hello, 99 Army Kills, Great Mods, channel members, sponsors, PDL players, trivia, and Walking Dead. All right, so we CRM is all over the world, is what we can tell. So they are a worldwide organization. So let me start with this. How many of y'all were here for the prediction we did about a month ago when we were talking about Daryl Dixon? Because I got to tell you, some of that stuff was spot on. I'll go into it in just a couple minutes. Because we were kind of going off the cuff. We were making predictions, and we weren't that far off. So we'll get into that in a couple seconds. Before we get into it, I need to know what you guys thought. I just want a scoring system. So from a 1 to a 10, I want you guys to give me your score for tonight's episode. And there better be some high numbers. That's all I'm going to say. Like some really high numbers. Because this was the equivalent of a movie, a miniseries, and the future of The Walking Dead. All right, so I see a lot of Dr. Dye's like 9.65. I got to leave just a little bit of room. Jesus says 8. I just did not get it. Well, you know what? That's why we're here. That's why we're here, is to break it down. So, and I think we'll get there. But like all new episodes, you got to lay the foundation and the groundwork and give just enough, whether it's a boiler walker and dropping acid on your flesh. A 2? A 2? if you're rating The Walking Dead a 2, I don't know there's a lot you can talk about. All right, so a lot of 9s, 9.5. If I rated The Walking Dead a 2, I would probably be asleep by now. But certainly you have that right. But we'll get to a little bit of the breakdown. So we're gonna start out with just a couple things that we mentioned a few weeks back. So when we kind of predicted how this story would be set up, it was I think I used like the Gilligan's Island and the a cross between Gilligan's Island and Tom Hanks' Castaway. That Daryl would be on a boat, he would float to shore, he would be found, and that's pretty much what happened. So that part of it I don't think was a stretch, but it did seem like that there was a narrative. So CRM, why they didn't kill him, I guess, when they had him in their sights. Did they show some mercy on him? We'll break that down. We'll get into that and find out why they didn't finish the job with Daryl. Or did he show them up and did he just escape? So more and more it does appear we were right on target with that. Look, Daryl was at Commonwealth. He got tired of seeing Judith without a dad. And, they get wind that Rick and Michonne are out there. So Daryl's like, I'm going to go get them. Now, guess he was on his way. Probably found them. And they just threw him on the next boat. And then he got on a smaller boat. Somehow, some way. And then here he is all the way across the Atlantic. And he's in France. So we get all of that. I like the primitive nature of starting over. So let me kind of, and Those of you that rated it high, great. Gene White says, love The Walking Dead. This is awful. So we'll probably get some things that we touched on. So here's kind of the way we do our streams. Leave in chat right now something that you enjoyed about this type of episode that maybe you haven't gotten out of The Walking Dead or Fear of the Walking Dead or Dead City. So leave a couple thoughts there, because I've got several notes here. Kind of Daryl's path to redemption. So the real underlying thread here is, it's not only Harold, is it a fresh start? Daryl is the new prophet. And I know, as weird as that sounds, it's kind of about time, right? We haven't really went full circle, other than the Pope, and that was more of a cult than a nunnery or a convent or a redemption, a revival. And this particular convent, I guess we would call them, Daryl hit on a couple points and said, you're leaving your options open. So what that tells me is they are sort of they're a melting pot of religion. So they're not really maybe your Protestants, maybe your Catholics. They're just kind of what's left. Leave your options open, because there's going to be a Messiah. There's going to be a revelation. And Daryl is the prophet, and Laurent is a kind of like a visionary, a soothsayer. So they got the pieces in place to up this into The Walking Dead. Now, many people may not like that story. I am not one of those people that don't like it. In fact, I'm one of those people that absolutely love it. I love the fact, now, we can debate how convenient it is and how you get there, but I'm one of those people that it's just about time to say, why are they even living? So let me ask you this question. If you had witnessed all of the stuff, all the death, all the zombies, all the apocalyptic nature, all those things, what is your reason for living? And this episode and this series, to me, hits at the very point of that. I think the only reason that they could be living is faith and salvation. Because everything is not normal. It's just not normal. So you've got good points to begin again, to start over, to see if it's just a virus that's out of control. Those are all fine. I consider those what I'm going to call the eye of the needle. Okay? Do me a favor. Humor me just for a second here. Type in, if you were living in this zombie hell that they've been living in the Walking Dead universe, what is your reason to live? All right, so I already saw, to begin again, to help people. So to me, those are the eyes of the needle. The thread that goes through all of those eyes is the religious component that they're starting to touch on. And I got to tell you, killer nuns, huh? Is what Daryl called them. So when you see this, doesn't this kind of remind you of the Holy Wars? Because when you think about religion throughout history, part of that a lot of times gets left out are the Holy Wars. and the killer nuns and what they're willing to fight for. And you see this really, really epic image of these 3 nuns with these weapons, and they just get gunned down. Now, there was a time when I did Walking Dead streams 5 years ago that our audience would have said, there is no way they would do that on television. They gunned down a lot of nuns. Not in a movie. I'm talking about on AMC. So that should show you the violent nature. All right, so to me, that's where the table's set. The table is set where Daryl's a false prophet or he's a real prophet. But he's something to these people because he survives and he showed up. Now, it's hard. What's up, Fred Davis? Good to see you. Father G would get along well with those killer nuns. So, here's the problem. It's hard to accept, and I've used this analogy before in some of our streams. It's hard to accept a zombie apocalypse being real, but then be overly picky when something happens that you see it as not being very real, right? So it's like, well, that's not realistic. Well, newsflash, neither are zombies walking around not eating and just reanimating and biting you and dropping acid on your skin. So if we're going to accept that as the norm and that is the world that we live in, then we have to also accept that it's believable in this universe that some people could see Daryl as a prophet. So, here's how I know this. So, Corey Kane's different tone, but I'm already super interested in the show. I think they borrowed a little bit of history, though. So, would you guys mind if I just go backwards in time a little bit and just bring up a little history? Because when I saw this, it kind of reminded me of a story. So, it was a story of Montezuma. So, you may or may not know this, but Hernan Cortez was riding on horses, and because the Aztecs believed Quetzalcoatl, whether I'm saying it correct or not, was going to return one day. So when Cortez came rolling in, he basically could stroll up to Montezuma and the Aztecs because they believed that he had good intentions, which he did not. Now, fast forward to The Walking Dead, and you've got Laurent drawing this picture that somebody's going to be showing up. Now, the time frame of this, though, is really intriguing because it was just 3 weeks ago. Now, 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours, 3 years, 30 years, whatever. When it was going to happen, it was going to happen. But it is interesting that Laurent knows a lot. He says, I feel it in my stomach. Like he can tell a lot about Daryl. So I think we have taken that shift to a little bit of supernatural. Now, I'm not saying that there's going to be Walking Dead dragons, but I will say this feels different. So let's start with the intro. Did the intro kind of remind you guys a little bit of Game of Thrones? A little more Game of Thrones and a little less Walking Dead? Like, I'm watching that thinking, like, I'm waiting to see, like, the blood roll down and, the different cities and, the map and all of that stuff. So we're transitioning. I mean, those French walkers are faster, a little more scary, dripping acid on you. They're weapons. So the walkers have been weaponized. And we've been building up a little bit with this. I mean, remember Winslow? Remember Jadis and Winslow? I mean, walkers have been harvested to do different things. So now with this particular series, we've got Daryl, who's thought to be someone sent from God, just happened to be in the right place too. I mean, who am I to say he's not? I have no idea the direction, but I got to tell you, with everything that Daryl's been through and not dying, if I was living in that universe and Daryl came walking up with a cape, I might say, there's the Savior. There's the Lord and Savior Daryl Dixon coming to rescue us because we've been living in his hell for a long time with these walkers. Because again, we can't put our current psyche into the psyche of what these people are dealing with. Corey Gaines says, I found it interesting how the nuns kept the priest in that room. It's like Herschel keeping the walkers in the barn. Yes, or the governor and his daughter. Some people just, more so, I think, Corey, in this one, this group actually, whether it was Herschel doing it or whether the governor doing it, now it kind of makes sense, though, for this religious group to be doing it because they believe that when the resurrection happens that these demons will be cast out and that priest will be normal again. And right, Matt, Daryl will be the last man standing. Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, Daryl's got his own series. Daryl can support a series. But what is so important is that I don't know that I wanted to see Daryl cast in the same role, right? So I think that's why if some people don't like this reboot, it needed to be a reboot. What were you going to do? Were you going to put him out in California? Were you going to put him in Texas with Fear the Walking Dead? Was it going to be like Nick and go over to Mexico? Or let's send him halfway across the globe and let him start over and show his version of the story. So if you're going to reboot a series, you got to do it. And you're doing it with all this medieval holy war 14th, 15th century and say run with it and carry it and build up these characters. Right. Can't have him, hi. It's got to be, well, he was in the South, Evil Change. I mean, they were in Georgia. So we've spent time there. I mean, where else are you going to go? To Florida? I mean, can't go unless you're going to go to Cuba or Puerto Rico. So I think this perspective of let them idolize him. Now, I'm just going to say this. She was definitely a converted nun, because how many people saw the sponge going down a little bit low there until he grabbed her hand? Did you guys catch that? I mean, don't say that was me and my perverse thinking. I mean, he's there bathing, and that sponge is not going toward the neck area. It's going, and he's like, "Hey, what happened to you?" What would he say? "Hey, buy me dinner first," or something. But it was about to get a little dicey. So I think that tells us about kind of the state of this group. So here's why I think that's so important. Because television, even streaming on YouTube, and I'll tell you firsthand, because of streaming and topics that we cover or don't cover, and religion is a very dicey topic. So if you go too hardcore with it, it can be a turnoff for your viewers. But if you add a little bit of an element of the faith, and then a little bit of an element of, well, these people are human too, I think they struck the right balance. That's why I thought it was incredible. Because you can take a topic like holy wars and religion and say, this is the state of it at this moment and time in the show. That there are still people out there that believe in something. Because if you did not have faith, and I'm just speaking from my limited experience of what it would be like in a Walking Dead universe, if you didn't think that things were going to improve, I don't know that there's a reason to live in the Walking Dead universe. I would not want to roam around as a boiler or a walker the rest of my life. So when you see this universe, and this universe is constantly bad, it's always bad. And when it gets better, you run out of food. And then when you run out of food, you find food. And then when they find food, then there's bigger, stronger people trying to steal your food or trying to make you work for them. So even when you think that society is improving, it goes backwards. So now what we really have is we have boiled down the Walking Dead universe into 3 different categories. We've got the survivors. And those are the people who just want to live and they want to explore and they just want to be left the hell alone. And then you've got the dominators. Those are the people that want society to be a certain way, but you got to report to certain people. And if you're out there by yourself, you're outnumbered and you're going to come work for us. And then you got the people who are the religious or faith-filled. So now you've got this third group that are basically saying, we have a higher purpose. But we saw tonight all 3 of those things, and they intertwined, and one is not any more powerful than the other one. Daryl got the best of some of the controlling people. The sisters got the best of some of the, so all of them were powerful at different times. So I think this is where their worlds start to intertwine. What I thought was really, really cool was how, I think his name was, I can't remember his name. Wasn't Pierre. But anyway, it was the kid with the bayonet. The one that actually jabbed the priest. The nun went to him and said, "Your parents worshipped here." So you can see the connection. But it didn't matter because he had to do what he was being told to do. Otherwise, he would have been the one that died. And I think his name was, I'm going to say, Cadron, maybe, is the baddie guy. I think his name is Cadron. So, I get it. What some people probably do not like is Daryl got washed up on shore. He finds a recorder. I think they were probably, person's boat was probably Irish. Sounded like they had an Irish accent. And then, but they were on the shores of France. And, and then he's kind of getting reacclimated. He's been in salt water. And first thing, he finds his bucket of rainwater, drinks the rainwater. Gets, his vision was blurred. Then then he's back on his feet a little bit. And he checks out a couple boats. He finds a little bit more water, get himself back on feet, get a little food in him. And now he's Daryl. And now he's ready for this 10, 20, 30-mile hike. And then, stumbles upon the survivors because I think her name was it Mary Beth, if that was her real name. But Mary Beth and the dude she was with, guy that pretended to be blind, they're like Daryl. They're no different than Daryl. They're just out there trying to explore, trying to survive. And then Cadron's group rolls up on them. They're like the guerrilla group. So you see that you can survive with craftiness, or you can survive in the masses and domination, or you can survive by being a group of nuns and basically leave us alone. Because they had been left alone for many, many years. That's why it was so tragic of what happened today. When Cadron's brother was killed, he did not care that these were religious people. He wanted his revenge. So I think that sets a really, really strong narrative. Now, if you were to tell me, all right, Kills, the boat thing at the end lost me a little bit, I would agree with you. Because now you go from this really, really small circle of people to, wait a minute, something's going on there. Is that CRM? Is that a bigger boat? And if I gave it a 9.5, it's only because I didn't like the girl at the end giving me the speech about her dad used to fish in these waters type of thing. I was like, oh God, here comes a Morgan story. But it wasn't that bad. But it was more, the crew is only as good as its captain. So we're going to find out a little bit more of how Daryl escaped. So here is my prediction, okay? If you guys want sometimes I get lucky. If you guys want an exclusive Killshot 999 prediction, give me a 999 right now, and I'll give you my thoughts of what I think is going on. And again, I'm not looking at spoilers. I'm just merely piecing the puzzle together. All right. And I think it's been a while. I feel like Fear the Walking Dead was her name with the CRM was Isabel? Correct me if I'm wrong with that. All right. So I'm going to tie it all the way back to Isabel from Fear the Walking Dead. Now you guys know I gave up on Fear the Walking Dead a couple seasons ago. But she said something that I remember, and it was along the lines of, if they don't let people go. They either bring you into the CRM or they kill you. But they don't let you know of what's going on, right? You can't reveal their secrets. So, because we saw the uniforms in the boat, the people on the boat were CRM. And I'm going to say Daryl has done something that Rick has not been able to do. Escape the CRM. And I think that's why the lady who is the overseeing the captain of the ship, when she said all of our work, all of our research is now in jeopardy because of this person. So Daryl knows stuff. And now he's a loose end that needs to be taken care of. Now you would think that, look, he's one dude, let him go. What's he going to do? Right? Why do we have to send all these boats after him and all this military and all this stuff? He's one person. So he must have really, really impressed upon them that he needed to be dealt with. So Daryl was put on a boat by the CRM. Now, what I'm going to say is he was probably captured, and then he needed to work like other people. And he spent a little time working on this boat and then found his exit and said, I'm getting out of here. So now you got Daryl as a loose end to the CRM, but you have Daryl as a prophet to the nuns. So Daryl is kind of serving two different purposes. And that's where the universe grows. Because we've got the Commonwealth going to grow that group and thrive. The Eugenes, the Ezekiels of the world. Rick and Michonne are going to thrive because they're living. Maggie and Negan are dipping their toes in New York. They're not that far away from Rick. And the Dama probably has some connections to CRM. And now you've got Daryl. So if we're not on a collision course, ultimately for our heroes to take down the CRM many, many years from now, then I don't know what we're doing, because I think that we are recruiting worldwide. Daryl's got his thing. Maggie and Negan have theirs. Morgan has his thing. So all these different pockets are like makeshift CRMs, but they don't have the power to do it. But eventually they might want that freedom. That's my prediction. So, with that being said, I'm going to ask you guys one more time, one thing that you really, really appreciated about tonight's episode, and then I'm going to ask you to score it one more time, and we will reconvene next week. So, again, if you watch spoilers, this is going to be a tough stream for you because you'll know a little bit more. So I'd say if you want to have a lot of fun, steer clear of the spoilers. Because we get in here and we try to break it down and predict it and see how right we are and how wrong we are too. Because a lot of times we're really, really wrong. But it's just neat to try to piece the puzzle together because it is a puzzle, I think, worth piecing together. All right. With that being said, everybody, one more time. Give me those 10s, everybody. Come on. Give me those 10s. 10 to win. We love it. Villar, 9.6. Harold Evans, 9.5. Corey, 9 out of 10. Only reason I say is because I wanted to see more walkers. Hey, fair enough. Bones, 9. Gemstone, 9.8. Deadly Dives, 9.4. Dr. Die, 9.7. Liz Burnett, 10. Busy Bee says more than a 10. The Deacon, giving it a 9. Julia Muse, a 10. Marcia Cooper, 9.5. Awesome to see some of these really, really high scores. B-Dub, 9.5. That means, ladies and gentlemen, we got another epic series on our hands, and this has already been renewed for year number 2. So if you guys like talking about it, you like hanging out with us, give us a thumbs up. We're just setting a table tonight. Next week, we'll have a little bit more story, a little bit more detail, and we'll hang out a little bit longer with some future speculations. Thanks again, everybody. I will see you all soon during the week for Walking Dead or for some of our games or some of our trivia. Look forward to seeing each and every one of you guys. Have a great night. Talk to you all soon. Peace.